Well, good morning, everyone. It's Wednesday again, Wednesday morning for our weekly Wednesday webinar. Welcome to the Low Tech and New Fields Ag weekly Wednesday webinar. We spend time here with you and some of our key resellers and suppliers answering questions and providing training and information for our cleaner, safer, greener products. So I'm Michael Musselman, Principal and VP of Sales Marketing. With us today, we have Jamie Jones, Business Development Manager with YieldMaster Solutions, going to visit with us about our nitrogen fixer and Vita that's in the lineup, and also Ron Delfs with Dakota Bio with the Phenom product that has been performing very well and gives us another good option, kind of a 1-2 punch with these products out here in the nitrogen fixer space. So we look forward to your questions and your interaction. And as always, we'll record and post this for those of you who want to review it and for those who were not able to make it on the call today. So New Fields Ag, innovations in your field. This is our goal to bring new innovations to bring improvements for every field on your farm. And we've been working for a period of time here to put together a portfolio of products that are climate smart technologies that enhance soil and plant health, nutrient management efficiencies, and we have scientists behind us that help bring us these practical technologies to be a leader in this space. And YieldMaster Solutions and Dakota Bio are two of those companies that help us in that initiative. So we want to bring you high quality products, excellent agronomic support, and training on the product use. If you take a look at the bottom of this slide, you can see the little icons on areas of application and operational benefits that we can bring into play. And this network of scientists and agronomists and manufacturers help us to put together the information to provide the whys and how these products can be used and results that you can expect in the plant, in the field, and in the crop as we go. So we know that farmers are looking for guidance regarding how biological solutions can fit in their cropping systems. There's been a lot of interest and demand here as we go forward in the past couple of years, and it continues to grow. There's a lot of companies in this place, in this space, and a lot of new products that will be coming out, both with us and other companies. And we want you to know, as a farmer or reseller, that we're interested in staying abreast of those changes, developing these new products, and being smart about how we work to implement them as we stack these products together. So we know there's a global boom in biological markets, and it's an exciting place to be. I like to show this information just to kind of set us up for where we're at in some of the discussion of the topics for the day. Here we're going to talk about nitrogen fixers and how they help your crop and your farm for ROI. There's different methods for applying these biologicals. There's on-seed and seed-applied treatments. There's the dry planter box by the use of dust, our patented biocomplex inclusion carrier technology, where we can actually mix the biologicals in with that product and get you on the planter box. We have liquid in furrow, foliar applications, soil applications, and then obviously with these different options, a farmer may implement multiple biological modes of action during the season, depending on how they want to, you may want to approach your ability. So, we like to show that we can meet an operational type of aspect or benefit with the farmer in all these areas. Some people do not have liquid in furrow. Some people maybe do not have foliar application abilities because their co-op applies and their co-op may not want to apply the material for them. So being able to have different operational aspects of applications very critical, and these are the main ones that we see our product in terms of placements. And so in kind of to summarize that, we look for economic benefits, agronomic benefits, and the operational benefits as a product that we would bring in and how it fits. And when we look at a product to bring into our lineup, we want to see a 75 to 80% win rate. And Invita and Phenom provide those win rates, and a 2 to 3x ROI. And these products provide those kinds of economic benefits also. And you find as we go operationally, there is the ability to apply in furrow foliar, and then with Phenom even as a seed treatment. So this gives us the ability to meet the needs where these products can be applied. So Jamie Jones with Yield Master Solution is going to visit with us about Invita and where and how to use it, its benefits, and some of the results we've been seeing as we focus here into spring. This is a product that's easy to apply, and we can even apply it foliarly. So there's time yet to get this in place and implement it, and we've got a lot of proven experience with it. So Jamie, I'll stop sharing and let you share your screen and go right ahead.
That sounds great. Thank you very much. All right. If anybody has any questions, Michael, definitely stop me or anybody else, so feel free. But yeah, so Invita, pretty simply, it's a nitrogen fixing bacteria, single strain. It's a naturally derived from sugarcane. And something that's unique about Invita is that it can be applied in a couple different ways. And then one additional layer to that uniqueness is the variety of crops in which it can be used on. So it can fit into any operation and really just about any crop that needs nitrogen, which is a majority of them. So what is Invita? Kind of went over that already, but what happens is when the product is applied, it gets into the plant through the leaf stomata, and from there it starts to colonize and replicate, and it gets throughout the plant. And I've got a diagram coming up here showing exactly how that works. But the point of this slide is we're trying to minimize nitrogen being a limiting factor, and sometimes through application methods, mostly Mother Nature, we hit that demand curve. Whatever the situation is, we want to balance out that nitrogen. We want to ensure that that plant has adequate needs. So like I mentioned, this is just a really good visual of how Invita gets into the plant. So one thing I like to point out here is this is a great graphic, and anybody could say, oh, you got a great marketing department, but how do you know the true science behind this product? So when we're here to be very transparent, this is how it works, and this is actual photos from a cross section. On the left-hand side, you'll see the edge of a root tip, and those little black dots are the Invita bacteria. And if you look over to the right, that's a cross section of the same plant, but it's of the corn leaf. So it does in fact get into the cell. It does in fact start replicating, and it does also in fact translocate throughout that plant tissue. Now, the buzzword biological and nitrogen fixing and those types of biological buzzwords have been around here for, I would say, a few years, and definitely building. But with Invita, this is over a 30-year-old bacteria. So again, like I said, it's naturally derived. It was discovered and extracted from sugarcane, and from there, over in Nottingham, they've spent the last 30 years getting it and understanding it, and then also getting it into a farm gate user-friendly product. And that leads us to today. I always like to add this slide in. We believe in nitrogen, not just the nitrogen fixing bacteria, but nitrogen from manure, nitrogen from synthetic applications. Here at Yield Master Solutions, our mantra is not to cut nitrogen. Our mantra is, our growers and their trusted advisors know their soils the best out of anybody. They know their yield goals. They know their soils better than I would or anybody at Yield Master Solutions. So our stance is not to cut nitrogen or encourage the reduction of nitrogen. Our stance is use Envita as an insurance policy if you are forced to cut your nitrogen, if Mother Nature robs that nitrogen from being available. So that's our pretty firm stance there. Envita can be applied in furrow at planting. So it is a liquid product. You would get your starter fertilizer, add all your other tank mix partners, insecticides, and what have you. If you do have high salt starters, you will want to add a little bit of water, 1 to 2 gallons per acre, just to serve as a buffer from that salt content. And then Envita always goes in very last. If you've got a dosatron system, that's an excellent way to apply biologicals, including Envita. Can be applied foliar. This is by far our most popular way and method of applying Envita. I would say about 80% of our market uses the foliar option just because it's very simple and easy to do. You don't have to make a separate pass by any means. So again, same as with a starter fertilizer, you're going to get all your tank mix partners in, your water, everything that's going out, and then Envita will go in very last. It does come
Jamie,
in, yeah.
Jamie, have you seen any difference in yield necessarily with an in-furrow or a foliar application?
Yield-wise, no. I will say we tend to see a little bit more consistency in the yields on the foliar side than the in-furrow. And we attribute that mainly to we plant the seed and then it sits there for 14 days or more. We get a cold, wet spring. That germination doesn't happen as quickly, therefore leaving that Envita bacteria a little bit more susceptible to all the other predator bacteria in the soil. So yield-wise, we see great response with both of them, but being transparent on the foliar side, we see a little bit more consistency. It just seems that there's less that can go wrong on the foliar side. Good question. So what about compatibility? This is another nice feature of Envita, very high compatibility when it comes to tank mix partners. So insecticides, herbicides, you name it, always obviously recommend a jar test, but very highly compatible, can go in with your first post herbicide pass very easily on corn, beans, and other crops. Chlorinated water, if you've got some grower that's using municipal water, we've tested this up to swimming pool levels, so 2 parts per million of chlorine, and the bacteria actually did all right. So we're not too concerned about municipal water if there's some chlorine in it. Timing of application, corn, and then the same with soybeans, the earlier the better. We like to see it get on early so it can start to get in the plant, start colonizing, and then pulling in that nitrogen from the atmosphere. Now, it does feel like, well, maybe I'm spraying a lot of dirt. And yes, you are, but with this product, it's about quality versus quantity. It's a little bit different mindset than a herbicide where you're trying to paint those leaves. With this, we just need a few droplets. There are thousands of bacteria in those droplets, if not millions. So we just need a few droplets to get onto the corn plants and then start getting into the plant. Same with soybeans. And again, if you're going in foliar, that first post pass seems to be ideal. Packaging, it comes in 4 by 1 gallon cases. 1 gallon treats 40 acres. A case will treat 160. And then just kind of reiterating the fact that this is a very versatile product as far as crops that can be applied to. Here's a summary of application timings for some of our more common crops. Any questions on application? All right, I'm going to skip ahead here and show some data from last year throughout our region that we work in. So this was in central Minnesota. very drought conditions throughout the entire growing season. And as you can see, the Envita on the left-hand side, bigger root mass and increased ear size. Similar area, similar results. And this one was probably one of my most favorite side-by-side visuals from last year. So on the right-hand side, Envita was applied. And if you look at the lower canopy, you don't see that cannibalization like you do on the left-hand side. So an extremely visual side-by-side from last year. This one speaks for itself. Again, very challenging growing season out in Schuyler, Nebraska. Left-hand side, no Envita. Right-hand side, Envita application. Similar scenario here, only we had a competitive product applied on the left-hand side, and Envita was applied on the right. Michael, I would maybe have you talk about this one because I think this one came from your camp.
Yeah, so one of the co-ops up in Southwest Wisconsin sent this in to us. They did a nice job of going and checking and applying the product a little later. What I like to see is it's just clearly you can see the plant health improvement. Basically, even if you look there, even like it's almost like you turn nitrogen on and off on the planter, right? Where they just literally started the boom or stopped. So we know that this product improves plant health, improves quality, and if you're running where you're feeding any of this material to animals, silage or needing quality for wheat or some of these other products that go to a specialty or get paid on quality, this product definitely adds feed value in that quality, and you can see it here just by the amazing job it does on adding greenness or chlorophyll.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so those are nice and great pictures, but what about the yield data? We operate through proof of concept trials. These aren't just random side-by-side trials, cherry picked by growers or anything like that. These are replicated trials that we have a good understanding of product supplied, how it was managed, all those important details. What did we see in 2022? So with the drought conditions, it actually helped us in a number of areas. So we're really seeing Envita shine where nitrogen is limited due to drought. And with that, 9.7 bushel response when positive. That's what we saw last year with an 87% win rate. Multi-year, and again, Envita is going into its 5th year. So this isn't something that's been out in the market for just a couple years. We're going into our 5th year, so we feel very confident in our data and happy to share that. So over the last 4 years, we've seen an 8.3 bushel, which has been fairly consistent across those years, 82% positive response rate. Now, I just shared with you a little bit ago about how we don't believe in reducing nitrogen. This study was done purely out of curiosity, and how we like to position this information is if you have a grower that puts on 180 pounds of nitrogen, but they lose 40 of it to Mother Nature, heavy rainfall, volatility, whatever, this is what an Envita can do in that scenario. Or if you have a grower that is due to high cash rent or something like that, some situation, he can only put on 140 pounds and probably ends up with 100 at the end of the day. Here is what the help of Envita can do. Okay, switching gears to soybeans. Corn is king, and it seems like our focus always tends to revolve around corn as a whole in the industry, but I'm extremely excited about the soybean data that we saw last year. Again, it really speaks for itself. 90% win rate last year, 4.9 bushel when positive. I think this is a sleeping giant. I think with the late season soybeans, double crop soybeans, and even up my way, I live in southern Minnesota. a tremendous potential with Envita on soybeans. They are as a plant a nitrogen hog, and it seems like we tend to forget that. So using Envita to me is a no-brainer on soybeans.
So Jamie, one of the important things to keep in mind is from the perspective of when we look at the Brady rhizobia and the nodulation later in the season, as plants begin to senesce, you can find that the pinkness does not stay into those nodules and pump out as much nitrogen to the plant. And what's nice about these nitrogen fixers that we have is that because they've colonized throughout the plant, we're into those green growing areas throughout the plant, fixing nitrogen, even as your Brady rhizobium or your roots may suffer from brown stem rot in terms of getting materials from the roots. Brown stem rot may be a problem, or any other type of disease in terms of translocating nutrients up. So we can sit there and pump nitrogen into the plant even in those late, and I call them the rains, that we get with the hurricane rains late in season that can add 3 to 5 bushel depending on the situation. So the other thing to note is that Envita works on these other crops beside corn. And some people are surprised when even though the product's been on the market in the U.S. 4 years and 7 years in Canada, people still are surprised that these products will work on other crops than just corn or just soybeans, for instance. So we like to highlight and bring that up. And for us, it seems like sometimes soybeans get the secondary crop, but they're half the acres, so they're so we really want to focus on someone knowing that there are opportunities in soybeans to add yield with this kind of a product.
Yeah, absolutely. Multi-year on Envita on soybeans, pretty consistent. Just under 70% positive response rate, win rate, and 4.2 bushel. 4.2 bushel on soybeans, that's nothing to to dismiss very easily. That's pretty good. What do we see visually last year? This picture pretty much speaks for itself. Treated on the left, untreated on the right. A lot more foliage, a lot more branching, just overall better plant. This one should look familiar to you, Michael. This is actually a double crop soybeans. This information or this photo really piqued my interest and really got me questioning and thinking about Envita on soybeans, and that it's probably a bigger play than what we've given it credit in the past couple of years. Alfalfa. Anybody that's raising alfalfa, this is a great opportunity to increase your protein, your relative feed value. We see very consistently, over a 1.4 points higher in protein levels on alfalfa. And what's nice too is, you can apply it after first cutting, and it's going to be in the plant. You don't have to apply it every single cutting. It's a one and done product when it comes to alfalfa. Relative feed value, obviously, the protein, nitrogen is the building blocks of protein, which would lend to an increase in relative feed value.
So Jamie, the concept there, I think, is important to highlight again, because of the ability of this product that it is in the stems, in the roots, and in the leaves. When you cut your alfalfa, there's enough colonization yet in the plant that it'll as the plant regrows, it recolonizes. And for a $15 an acre type of product that recolonizes, I think this is an important one to approach the alfalfa or the hay farmers with, in regards to other programs and other products, and we may offer them, but from us or other companies often require an application, if it's a nutritional application or humic fulvic, micronutrients, NPK, those generally require you to apply after every cutting in order to get that response again. And we know that generally after every cutting, there's an ROI on those, but we want to make a simple point of reiteration that you apply this product once and it regrows into the plant.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great call out there, Michael. Vita on potato. I don't know if you've got a lot of potato growers, but if you got somebody that's got it in their garden, 100%, I would recommend Invita on potatoes. There's tremendous synergy between Invita and potatoes. Sugar beets, we even got some data on that. We'll have some more going forward. Good interest there, good increase in tonnage. So yeah, and I guess with that, any questions? Could, probably spend an hour on Invita, but it's a fun product to talk about. Well, if you think of any questions, certainly ask Michael, and he knows how to get a hold of him.
Yeah, Jamie, thanks for that. If you'll stay on with us, we'll have Ron present now and highlight Phenom. And then towards the end, if there's some other opportunities, people may come back in with questions. So Ron, we'll put you up on the highlight. You're welcome to turn your camera back on. We see you now, and we also can see your screen. So we'll let you take it from here, sir, on the Phenom.
There we go. Does that show up fine?
Yes, sir.
It's been a little bit since I've done Zoom, actually. I've been in the real world quite a bit, which is kind of nice.
There you go.
Yeah, a lot of similar stories that Jamie covered real well. A lot of similarities between the products, actually. Phenom comes from willow trees in the Pacific Northwest, like Jamie said, sugarcane. So mode of action fairly similar with the two, living inside the plant, an endophyte that colonizes around the stoma. So looking a little bit at Phenom and what it does, like I say, it lives in the stoma. Kind of got a graphic there of where it populates. And so basically to break it down is what it does is the nitrogen in the air, which is about 78% of the atmosphere is nitrogen, but it is in the N2 form, which can't be used by a plant. So what these bacteria do is convert that N2 to NH4, which is plant available. So like I say, a lot of similarities, and that's where both of us are a little bit different than one of the big competition, that a little bit different mode of action below ground, creating the nitrogen. When to apply, same story there too. Phenom begins working 48 hours after application. So we recommend starting at V2, and the earlier the better is, just because once you get it out in there, it's going to start 48 hours later, it's going to start creating that nitrogen. So if you can get it out there, the earlier the better. Just a comment here too, it's in the plant. And so as long as the plant is breathing, it is creating nitrogen. And so, whether you're getting it on seed treatment, in furrow, or early post-emergent, when that plant is breathing, it is converting that atmospheric nitrogen to N4 that the plant can use. You guys touched on a little bit of this too. I'll just cover a little bit more detail with it. So looking down here at the bottom, I'm showing inoculant, where we produce a lot of inoculants that the Brady rhizobium. So what happens is the soybean plant creates it through this Brady rhizobium, and each bushel of soybeans requires about 5 pounds of nitrogen. So what we're hoping for is this Brady rhizobium in the soil has got to create all that nitrogen for that whole season of the soybean. And also, if you've got a lot of organic N in your soil, if you've got heavy dark soils with a lot of nitrogen in them, the Brady rhizobium gets a little bit lazy, and it doesn't nodulate near as well. So I've got kind of a suspicion in some of these areas where we've got this heavy black soil and we're kind of plateauing out on soybeans is we're just not getting enough nitrogen built up in the soil to carry it through the whole season. And so that's where this converting the atmospheric nitrogen gives it season long, where this bradyrhizobium, once it gets to about R1, R2, you can cut open a nodule on a soybean and you can see that it's turning brown. So it's no longer creating that nitrogen that it needs to fill out. So a lot of excitement around that for me on soybeans, along with other crops too, of giving season-long nitrogen opposed to just like preloading it and just making it up to R2 and soybeans. You've probably all seen this picture. I'll probably keep using this one until I retire, just because it really illustrates the potential of these products. What happened here was on the right, you can see the strips in there, the yellow strips. And what happened was the anhydrous applicator, half of the toolbar got plugged up. So they basically got no nitrogen where those yellow strips are. And then between the white lines there was where they put in the phenom trial. So you can see it is visually green in that area. And so, and I'll address a little bit more too about the nitrogen piece, but definitely, this was a mistake. Mistakes happen all the time, and this is a great way to cover up for it. This ended up being 17.5 bushels difference in this, where we know we had a nitrogen deficiency. And this was in Southeast Iowa at Washington. Here's a picture from Minnesota Steve took. I saw a lot of these too. His pictures are a little bit better. Once again, you can see in the field the untreated check, the firing of the leaves down below compared to where the phenom was applied. Same nitrogen rates other than that phenom application. And we saw the green, the late season health compared to where the check on that. I saw several of these. Actually have a friend that's a dealer just north of me. He didn't do all his fields. He just did a few this first year, and the ones that he had phenom on were green. So he kept driving by them thinking the corn was wet. Finally got in there and it was dry corn. So we didn't see this last year. It was greener corn, but there was no the moisture was basically identical to the corn that is fired and dried up. So we were getting that late season plant health, and we weren't adding moisture to it. Here's one other distinction on products. Phenom has got a second mode of action, and that's a below ground. What it does is it makes available phosphorus more efficient, gets more into the plant. So it doesn't solubilize the phosphorus like our product B4. It takes the phosphorus that's available and just makes it more efficient and helps the plant get it into the system. So that leads to increased seedling vigor, cold tolerance, and it's helping out with that late season plant health too, and increased yield. Okay, so let's look. We did do a study, and this is kind of interesting. This was in North Dakota. And what happened here was we cut 25% nitrogen. And so what happened was where they went 100%, or the control was just 100% nitrogen was 212.9 bushels. And then where they went, cut 25%, which was about, I think it was around 50 pounds, they had an increase of 4.8 bushels. So if you ask the question, can you cut nitrogen? In this case, there was a 4.8 increase. But what's really interesting is when they ran the 100% rate, it was a 17.4 bushel increase. So in this case, the most economical way to go about it was to do their 100% nitrogen plus phenom. A little bit more, I've got a dealer in northern Iowa, younger guy, and he came to his his personal rebar starter from kind of looking to change things up a little bit. And I know that guy, so we got together, the three of us sat down and ended up with a plan to where he ended up running 130 pounds of 32%, but so he did cut quite a ways, but he did run a balanced starter. He ran a humic with it, and then he came back and foliar fed. And he also had, there was the opportunity there, if he was short of nitrogen, he had access to being able to get it with Y drops later in the season. So this is, I just want to expand on it. So he did do the 130, but like I say, he was really highly managing it. We also did tissue tests 3 times through the season and never came up deficient in nitrogen. So we were shooting for 300 bushel corn. He didn't have the weather to get that. He got fairly close, and through all this, he actually picked up another quarter this year. So he's real excited, and he's out running with that story. So to me, it's always been complicated because I don't like saying cut nitrogen because you just don't know where a person started. But when you're looking at it, if you're working with someone and, if you're selling them the products like a balanced starter, foliar feeds, things like that, I think a system can be in place to stack some of these things together and, get to the achieved goals. So I'm kind of expanding a little bit on my nitrogen. Officially, I'm still not saying cut nitrogen, but I'm seeing it work in cases where the management is put in and some of these other products are used in conjunction with it. Looking at the operational benefits, we've got a born-on date, so you know when it was manufactured. Low use rates. In furrow is a pint per acre. Comes in a 2 by 2.5. It's got 15 days in starter. For foliar, and we've got the foliar, that's when it would be 15 days, but when the testing we've done, you start mixing with glyphosate, other things like that, it's best used, after you mix it up within 12 hours. Another thing we can add to it is the seed treatment, which we're doing a lot of. 2 ounces per 100 pounds of seed, and we've got a 30-day seed life and 10 months on both of them on the on-open package. So when I'm talking about the soybeans too, we got some going on with corn, just because of the mechanics of seed treatment where you're getting it concentrated on the seed. We've seen yield-wise similar, whether it's in furrow, seed treatment, or foliar, but because of that low use rate on seed, say if you're looking at treating soybeans, I won't get into pricing, but about a third of the cost per acre, just because you're getting that highly concentrated on the seed. So a lot of opportunity there. A lot of people with box-to-box treaters, things like that, looking at the opportunity to get into that market.
Hey, Ron.
Yep.
Got a couple questions. Have you tank mixed Boss Phenom with Capture LFR?
We have, yes. Haven't seen any issues from what I've seen.
All right.
Yep.
And is there any research suggesting that the use of an adjuvant in the tank mix increases the number of endophytic bacteria or hurts the number of bacteria?
I don't think we've done any research. I'll check with Steve and get back to you on that, but I don't see any reason that it would hurt it. And just from my past experience with adjuvants, you're going to get better adhesion onto the leaves. So I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be a benefit with an adjuvant, I guess would be my answer to it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, economics. 4 years, and this is in independent research trials replicated. We're looking at over the 4 years a 77% win rate, 8.2 bushels. So been really consistent. This last year, we've had a lot of success with it also. Soybeans, 78% win rate, 2.7 bushels per acre. and a 4% yield increase. So keeping up those, we're getting multiple years of data in, and we're they're, as you get more and more, things really start to flush out, and we're keeping up to that 78, getting close to 80% on the win rate, and just really excited with how it's going with that. So why use Phenom? Talked about it, increase your nitrogen supply, whether that's top end yield or maintaining increased phosphorus efficiency to your crop. All these soils have a lot of phosphorus out there. Talked a little bit about how it doesn't solubilize, but it makes phosphorus more efficient. If you've got cattle, if you've got animal manure or something out there, high phosphorus, this is going to make it more efficient, increase profit per acre, and ease the use. I'll quit with that. Any questions?
Hey Ron, with
Yep.
with the Phenom being added to anything, is there any other concerns or any other tank mix concerns that you might have as you start blending these things together? Anything that you've seen that need to be watch outs? Anything that we could be sure to make sure everybody knows this morning?
No, have seen no problems with compatibility wise. And the only thing that we've come across is, like I say, that you're best when you start mixing it with your herbicide pass. Once any of these come out of the jug, they're on a limited time span. So it is best to get that sprayed with the 12 hours, just like with the testing we've done, glyphosate, things like that. So that would be the only thing. No other issues that I can think of.
Thanks. I just want to make sure everybody understood that. I mean, that what's one of the things we like about the two offerings we have for the nitrogen fixing products that we're using here at Newfields Ag is that you've got a lot of flexibility with these. We know that there's, the large other bio-based product that's in the market that's doing a little bit of advertising has some limitations on what you can do with it, when and where and how it can be applied. And so we want you to understand that we're offering these products to give you flexibility. Falls into our good, better, best philosophy as you start building things out for the grower and putting together a package that's most flexible for them to be able to maximize their return. So we want want you to be able to have products that fit into a program, not having to fit a program around the products that you have. So that's the other nice thing too.
I got a couple questions, Michael, for both Ron and for Jamie. I know we've got really good win rates on both of these products. My question, and the tough question, is where we have not won, where is that? Like in the situations where we have not had a positive yield increase, where do you see those happen? For better product placement and performance, like what are the situations where the products have, that 20% where we haven't won, where are they?
I'll start off by saying I don't know personally. I don't know if it's possible to get much higher than that, because you've done a lot of trials and work with different things in the past, and there's just a lot of times there's no explanation. I mean, I've scratched my head on a lot of products through the years, and with this too, when it didn't work, why it was. And I just think there's things that go on, even with variability within a field, things like that make up some of it. And then I guess the other part would be with these products, if if your growing conditions weren't to get to
Yeah, I would agree. Sometimes, we set up these products and it's like, oh, this is going to be great. I can't wait. And then we come back and there was either, half a bushel or not even, maybe it was just zero gain in it, and it's frustrating. But I think for us, it's hard because we're used to the herbicide mentality, right? Like, we're going to spray this, it's going to work 100% of the time. But now we're even finding that with herbicides, it's not even 100% of the time. So it's just a little bit like changing that mindset. We're still trying to figure out this biological thing. I think we're all pretty open and we'll admit that. But for Invita, I would say a large portion of those times when it doesn't work, nitrogen simply is not the limiting factor. Those guys that manage nitrogen well, place their varieties well, split apply nitrogen, use nitrogen stabilizers, and the conditions are right, you're not going to see a response to Invita. And quite honestly, you shouldn't. I mean, we would not expect that. So, in those scenarios, we like to position our product like an insurance policy, just because you don't know what Mother Nature is going to do.
So Trenton, we always have the barrel stave concept. You have limiting factor. You have what's not the limiting factor. You also have the effluence factor. So why when you apply 210 pounds of nitrogen, that your yield goal was 240 or 50, but it comes in at 300 and you go to 0.6, 0.7 on your nutrient use efficiency, right? And then you get this idea of, well, man, I guess I only need to apply 0.6. So then you take 0.6 times 240 and apply only that amount. Is that, so nitrogen management is the most, in my opinion, is the most difficult thing to get right. And when yields go really high, it's because we did good things with nitrogen management, and then all the other factors of effluence got us up above. Because you have people who can still run fall anhydrous 210 pounds or 190, and they didn't do any side dressing, and they punch out some of these yields, and everybody else says, I've done this and I've done that, and then you go to the next guy who says, man, I should have put 20 units of side dress in on, and when I did that, I got 20 bushel more, right? So it's the highly dynamic issue, and that's why we like the Invita or the Phenom product to help out, right? So you're doing all these different applications, but then you have this microbe that's working for you all season long, right? So tell me, you have Brady Rhizobium work in a soybean plant all season long, right? Native. Why do we get different yield responses on soybeans? They all have Brady Rhizobium working in them. Right. But if you go apply fresh Brady Rhizobium, you can get 2 or 3 bushel response, right, Ron? But 100% of the time, with adding Brady Rhizobium to the native, often we can see 80% of the time that we get a 2-3 bushel yield response. We don't get 10, but there'll be people who say they don't get a yield response by adding Brady. And so this is the things you cannot figure out when you get into high yields or each factor that takes away from yield from a management standpoint. And we can't say why or why not that these didn't work, because we have yield responses with these products at lower bushel yield levels, 160, 180. And when you go into the 220s, 240s, 260s, 280s, we're still stacking on 6, 8, 12 bushel in these with some of these operators. And we've seen a variance of, if you look at those charts, 0 bushel response on corn to 35 bushel response on corn. Okay. And so it's a wonderful question. And we can't answer that definitively and say, why did it not work in this case?
Hey, Trenton,
Yep.
the issue that we see year after year is what Ron hit on there in his presentation about tank mixing. The one consistent thing is that I mix it on a Monday and I get rained out Monday night, and I don't get a chance to get back into the field till Wednesday. And I assume that everything I put into that tank is still at its viable level. I've done nothing to keep it in solution. I've done nothing to, do it, and I don't reapply. And I go out there and I say, I put your product in and it did not work. That's been the one consistent thing, is that, looking at the operational side of it, is that we can't allow for the fact that we're still dealing with Mother Nature. And if she decides to rain on the week that we're trying to get all this stuff put in, it adversely affects that as well. So that's been the one consistent through it all.
And to add on that too, these nitrogen fixers are a little, compared to like a B4 that's in a spore form that you could do anything to it, you're not going to hurt it. These nitrogen fixers are a little finickier. You definitely don't want them froze. It starts getting up 80 degrees. They really start, taking off. So there could be some of that too, just the handling of it.
You like putting these products on sand?
Yes. That's a perfect place for them, really, just because the sand's not able to hold that nitrogen. So it's more efficient for the plant to create the nitrogen as it goes. So I would say that's a fantastic place for them, if I understood the question right.
Same thing on Envita, Jamie?
Yes.
Feel super confident putting Envita on sandy soils?
Yes, definitely.
Any successes using it in organic systems? Either product?
So the OMRI certification for Envita is coming. They're still working on it. Off the record, what we can say is if you have organic growers, they can go to their certifier and say, hey, pretty much it's, OMRI certified, but doesn't have the stamp on it. And if they work locally with their agent, they should be able to utilize it.
Get approval from the certifier.
Yes.
Yes.
Similar story for me. Jeremy, I think, had a customer that went through a certifier and it wasn't a problem. So nothing in the products, but it sounds like both products that would preclude it, but we don't have like OMRI or WSU or anything, but certifiers have approved it.
Very good. Thanks, guys.
Question. If somebody does make up a batch and they get rained out after just getting started, did I miss what are the things that can be done to, try to revitalize that or keep it alive for a while in case it's a few days before you can get back in again?
Unfortunately, there's not much you can do except for add more to the tank when you can go out. So definitely encourage growers to check the radar, make sure that it's a good spray day and going to be for several hours. But in those scenarios, there's not much you can do. With these live bacteria, as we said, they're can be fairly finicky. It's all about time in tank. So the longer they're in the tank, the more those harsh chemicals will start to break them down. And, if it's 4 to 6 hours, that's great. If you get to, 24 plus hours, then populations start to decline. Good questions.
All right. Ron and Jamie, thank you for your good time today.
Thank you.
And we'll look for you to maybe help us in the future again. And at this time, we'll conclude the meeting for today, and I'll turn off the recording here, and we can chat chat afterwards here. So thank you all for attending, and wish you a safe and profitable day.
Excellent.